Welcome everyone to Monday Match Analysis. I'm Gill Gross. Jannik Sinner is a Masters 1000 champion. He wins his first north of my border, in Toronto. Huge accomplishment, massive milestone for 21-year-old Jannik Sinner. One that his fans, and I'm sure Jannik himself, have been clamoring for all throughout 2023. Dare I say some impatience started to set in when it comes to when is Jannik Sinner going to win a big tournament, a Masters 1000, maybe the year-end championships, obviously a major at the pinnacle of all of that. When is that going to happen? But while that impatience did set in, I have rejected from start to finish the notion that it's taking Jannik Sinner an unusually long amount of time to win one of these things. I've rejected that from the start. My breakdown has always been as follows. I don't think that was physically ready to do this until this year. I just don't think his body was strong enough to win big titles until this year. And this year in 2023, not only do I think he's filled out into his body enough, but I also think he's made some improvements elsewhere in his game, which I'll get to soon, that have allowed him to become the caliber of player that generally wins tournaments like this. And then you look at his 2023, well, he's made a lot of deep runs, 2 semifinal losses, 1 loss and a final, if you look at the Masters 1000s, and now he's won one. So yes, it took a couple of whacks at the piñata. We can put it that way. But it didn't actually take all that long. And in my opinion, this was an appropriately timed accomplishment for Jannik Sinner. Certainly could have come earlier. Certainly could have come later. This was appropriate. But it was also well-timed for Jannik when it comes to the U.S. Open. And to me, if we're going to take Sinner seriously as a title contender to win in New York, I do think he needed to win one of these. And I said the same thing before Roland Garros. So that's how you know that this isn't revisionist history. This isn't hindsight. I said before Roland Garros, the level is there where he's an outside contender to win the title. But do I believe that he can just win Roland Garros? No, I think I need to see him at least win a Masters first. Mentally, I think he needs to do that first before he'll be ready to do the other. Because some scar tissue had built up for Jannik Sinner. Quarterfinals are better at 5 majors, 7 Masters. So coming into Toronto, 12 times he had been to the quarterfinals or further at big events, and he's been blocked. He's been defeated at those late stages, in those late stages. And when that happens to you over and over and over again, obviously some doubts start to creep in. And you have to find a way to get over the hump in order to flush those doubts away. This accomplishes that. I understand that he didn't beat an Alcaraz or a Djokovic or a Medvedev in order to do so. I don't really think it matters. I think now Jannik Sinner looks at himself in the mirror, and in the midst of his breakout season, where he's up to a career-high 6 in the world, he is a Masters 1000 champion. He's gone all the way. He's lifted a big trophy. That's going to mean something at the end of the U.S. Open as far as his belief is concerned. But long term, while I think that this was essential for his U.S. Open title hopes, long term, I was never worried about Jannik Sinner because guys who continuously get better and better and better, they get rewarded. And I never worry about a player, I've said this about some others, I never worry about a player who just keeps getting better. Once they stop getting better, then you can start to worry. Jannik Sinner win percentage by the year, starting in 2019, 52%. After that, 64.5, 69, 73. This year, 79. That is steady incremental improvement over the course of a 5-year stretch. And it's been fantastically rewarding to watch. It's not a given. It hasn't been simple. It hasn't been easy. He's been pretty meticulous about making improvements mentally, physically, and technically. A lot of those things have been visual, and it's been a pleasure to cover all these things. I want to talk about the big three of Sinner improvements. My top 3 Sinner improvements that allowed this title to happen. I'm going to do that. Then I'm going to obviously talk about the final against de Minaur. But first, I want to talk about our partner, AG1. AG1 is the daily foundational nutrition supplement that supports whole body health, and I recently started drinking it every day. Let me kind of break down how AG1 has worked for me. I'm someone who has gaps in their diet. I don't get everything I need nutritionally because I'm a big foodie and I tend to focus on taste over nutrition in my meals. Sometimes I can neglect certain nutritional aspects. And I just know how much healthier I can feel if I fill in those gaps. And that's what AG1 has allowed me to do. It's allowed me to continue those same eating habits and improve my nutrition anyways. All you do is take one of their metal scoops, you portion out AG1, or you use a travel pack, you put it in water, you mix it, that's it. It's very, very simple. I drink it in the morning while my coffee is brewing, and it always times out really well, where as soon as the coffee cools to perfect drinking temperature, I've finished my AG1. Gotta let your coffee cool, guys. Otherwise, you can't taste it. Anyway, this routine, drinking AG1 before my coffee, has me feeling energized and healthy in the morning. So if a comprehensive solution is what you need from your supplement routine, then try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase by going to drinkag1.com/Gill. That's drinkag1.com/Gill. Link will be in the description. Check it out. All right, top 3 Sinner improvements. I mentioned it briefly, but first and number 1 for me is physical, which obviously happens quite naturally, but I know that he's really emphasized that aspect of it, especially in the lower body. Not only was he breaking down in tournaments, and his level was kind of dipping as he progressed, which is often what we'll see from players who are underdeveloped physically. And you look at last year, he went 2-8 in quarterfinals, 0-3 in Masters 1000 quarterfinals. So first he's remedied that, because this year he's 7-3 in quarterfinals, 4-0 in Masters 1000 quarterfinals. How about that? Quarterfinals, which were a nightmare stage for him last year in terms of record, that was the spot where he really plummeted win rate wise. That's become actually a really successful round for him. But also there were injuries continuously creeping in. 2 retirements and a walkover at big events last year. I could go deeper into it. You know, there were other moments, but you just take that. 2 retirements and a walkover. One of them was at Roland Garros last year. This year, look, we're not looking at a clean bill of health. There have been some retirements. There has been a walkover, but small events. They haven't affected his season. At the big events, he has perfect attendance and perfect completion. So physically, we've seen those improvements. Let's talk about the serve. That's where visually some drastic measures have been taken, because Jannik Sinner, throughout his career, has been thoroughly unsatisfied by the effectiveness of his serve, as he shouldn't be. Because at his height, with his offensive play style, I think he expects from himself that he has a consistently deadly serve, and he hasn't been able to get there, and he hasn't been taking no for an answer. And he has tinkered and tinkered and tinkered and tinkered, and I just love to see that. Hasn't been easy for him. I don't know if this is the moment where it's clicked. I think there's a possibility that is the case, because I love what his motion looks like right now. It's my favorite ever iteration of Jannik Sinner's serve. I think it looks the most simple and the most powerful and the most repeatable of all of Jannik Sinner's service motions. And a lot has been made of his feet positioning, going from a platform serve to a pinpoint serve. That's been quite obvious, but I don't think that's been the most significant change he's made. I think the most significant change that he's made has been his racket position on the ball toss. So not his left arm, right? A toss is a toss. Everyone almost looks the same when they're tossing a ball. So that's not the difference, but it's the positioning of his racket arm at the moment Jannik Sinner releases the tennis ball for his ball toss. If you're watching on YouTube, you see on your left a screenshot from US Open 2022. And you see that his racket is literally behind his right calf. It's very, very, very far from where it ultimately needs to end up being in his trophy position. And what he's done was he's abbreviated that take back, so to speak. And now the screenshot on your right, which is Toronto 2023 this week, he's a lot closer to his final destination. He's a lot closer to where he needs to end up being for his trophy. He's cut down that distance. He's shortened the take back, which to me is going to make for a serve that's easier to time. Timing is massive when it comes to serving. You're timing your biomechanics. Your contact point needs to be consistent. Obviously, instead of the ball, like on a regular shot where the ball is coming at you and you need to time it, you have control of the timing as long as you have a consistent ball toss. The timing should be the same and can be the same every single time. But the busier your mechanics are, and I try not to get too into the weeds with this stuff, and there are some people who could probably explain this Jannik Sinner change a little bit better than I can. I always qualify it with that. But to me, this is cutting down on motion and therefore creating a serve where it's easier to have repeatable and more precise timing over and over and over again. In terms of is the effectiveness of it, we got to wait until we get more stats. And then we'll really see how well this is working. But I love the look of it. I think he's hitting his serve bigger. 78% or better on first serves won, all up until the final. If you look at just how consistently he held his serve this week, he was excellent. Didn't get broken against Berrettini. Got broken twice in 3 sets against Monfils. Got broken 3 times in 2 sets against Tommy Paul. And got broken twice against de Minaur, who was breaking serve like a madman up until this final. So, pretty good. All right, so that was the second improvement, serve. Third improvement, variety, which I can't say... I can't say there's tons of standout variety in Jannik Sinner's game right now. That's not the point. The point is that he can go to it at times. And in this final against de Minaur, he was 3 for 3 on drop shots. I don't think he hit more than 3. I charted 3. Maybe I missed one. But I have him as 3 for 3. One of them on the backhand, which wasn't actually all that good, but he got away with it. On a pretty big point, actually. And 2 really good ones on the forehand that he hit for clean winners. Great shot selection, great execution. But all of them were really important. One of them was at 4-5. That final game of the first set where he broke de Minaur's serve to take it 6-4. There was another one in the second set where he was serving to start the second set and he was in a 15-30 hole and he used the drop shot to get 30 all and ultimately held. And then the third one was at with de Minaur serving at 1-2 in the second set at 15 all. Sinner wins that point, ends up breaking serve. You don't need to hit 10 drop shots over the course of 2 sets for the drop shot to help you out. Like, to me, this 3 of 3 was meaningful. And it was great to see just that, those few points where he was effective with that shot. I know that he's continued to work really, really hard on it. So volleys, slice backhand, that kind of goes into the variety bucket as well. I can't say that slice backhand or volleys were particularly significant in this match. I think the drop shots, just the 3 of 3 that I spoke about, was the biggest thing. But he has worked hard to improve all of the above when it comes to his variety. So those were my top 3: physical, serve, and variety. Let's talk about this match, this 6-4, 6-1 win over de Minaur. In the first set, Demon executed a very focused and intricate tactical approach from the baseline. Effectively, he outdueled Sinner in the majority of the long rallies in the first set, and he did what he had to do, which was coax unforced errors out of Sinner from the baseline. That was his path to victory, and he executed that really well in the first set. But Sinner's short point dominance, because of his serve return dynamic and his power edge, were enough for Jannik to just take the first set by a slim margin. In the second set, de Minaur's consistency from the baseline kind of fell off. He started actually making some errors. And then it was good night. Because as soon as de Minaur wasn't able to just grind Sinner down and make sure that each and every time in every extended rally, Jannik was going to be first to miss, as soon as that wasn't happening, it was a comprehensive advantage in every aspect of tennis for Jannik Sinner. And that led to the 6-1. But in the first set and the second set, the constant was that de Minaur's serve was reduced to virtually nothing. It would be hard to overemphasize how much Sinner's return dominated de Minaur's serve, how much of a non-factor Alex de Minaur's first serve was. Sinner made 96% of his first serve returns. You almost never see that in men's tennis. De Minaur made 53% of his first serves. That's pretty low. When he made it, he only won 46% of the points. So this was a match where Alex could have started every point with an underhand feed. And I'm not really exaggerating. There were points in the second set where there were a couple games where I looked at it and I'm like, okay, wow, free point here, +1 there. Like the game that de Minaur held in the second set, he actually got something out of his serve in that game. That is about it. So in order to win this match, and at the end of the day, it starts here. In order for de Minaur to win this match, he would have had to win it without his serve against Jannik Sinner. Just win so much from neutral, win so many baseline rallies against Jannik Sinner that you're going to win the match. That seems pretty infeasible. I'll get into de Minaur's baseline tactics, which were awesome in the first set. I really enjoyed watching him figure this out, and I really admire how successful he was in the first set with these things. But boy, you're going to win a match like that? I don't think so. You got to get something out of your serve. Something. And he got nothing. I love Sinner's return. I think it's a great return. He made some exceptional backhand returns in this match, especially deep middle with pace. As I mentioned, Demon did keep the first set close. It was 4-5 on serve. He broke Sinner's serve a couple times in this first set, it was a competitive set because despite not having a serve, he was winning baseline rallies very consistently. Great tactical focus. Here's what he was doing. The first thing, well, first let me give you the overall objective, because every tactic has an objective. The objective for de Minaur was to remain unattackable, to extend rallies by putting Sinner in positions where Jannik wasn't going to be able to build his offense and finish points with his power. The thought, I think, for de Minaur, and this played out, was that if he could just remain unattackable, then Sinner would be first to miss in the extended exchanges, or that Sinner would get over anxious and to try to do too much when the opportunity wasn't necessarily presenting itself. So you really test the patience, test the shot selection, test the consistency of Jannik Sinner, and that was Demon's best bet. And he had the tactics to do it, and he had the speed to do it. The tactics started with making Sinner hit as many backhands as possible. Demon was really avoiding the cross-court forehand like it was the plague. Tommy Paul probably would have been well advised to do the same, a little bit more than he did. But de Minaur was not hitting any forehand trades cross-court. He did sometimes in the second set when he fell asleep. He usually paid the price for it. But usually it's like, I'm not just going to hit a neutral ball cross-court forehand. Because that is where Sinner is going to, step to his right, set his feet in the outer thirds, and you've opened up the angles of the court for Jannik Sinner's extremely deadly forehand, and you're in trouble now. As soon as you open up the angle of the court and allow Sinner to get that first offensive punch in from that position, you're in trouble. So de Minaur was going middle a ton, very committed to playing balls up the middle, even on his backhand. But if he wasn't going middle, he was going down the line with his forehand to make Sinner hit backhands. Because Sinner's backhand, and I'll give you the average speed at the end of this segment, it's not as big as his forehand. He's not going to blow you off the court with his backhand. So that's step one to kind of extending. Don't open up the angle and make him hit backhands. You're also keeping the ball deep, which de Minaur did a really excellent job of. So depth is obviously important. You're also taking off pace. Even though Sinner is pretty excellent at generating his own pace, you still, if you're de Minaur, you still don't want to give him unnecessary pace to work with. And you want to be in great defensive position, balanced, recovered in the middle when Sinner strikes the ball. And taking pace also helps you accomplish that. And something that comes very naturally for de Minaur, keep it low. He's naturally a flat hitter, but when you kind of take away the net clearance and you keep the ball low with your flat trajectory, that is another great way to remain unattackable. Watch these baseline rallies in the first set. Not only is Sinner hitting a lot of backhands, but you see de Minaur taking away angle, taking off pace, keeping it low, and keeping it deep. And you have a Jannik Sinner who desperately wants a ball to crush. He desperately wants to find that attacking ball, that opportunity to hit the build, to find the finish. And he's just not finding that opportunity because of just how present, tactically present, Alex de Minaur was in these baseline rallies. It was really, really impressive. The IQ that it takes to hang in these rallies when you are completely outmatched in the power department is commendable. How outmatched in the power department? Let me give you the average speeds. Forehand average speed. Sinner, 79 miles per hour. De Minaur, 68. 11 miles per hour advantage for Sinner. Backhand average speed. 75 miles per hour for Sinner. So 4 miles per hour slower on the backhand than it is the forehand, hence my point. Also a little bit less precise. But 75 versus 63 miles per hour for De Minaur. So he was really taking pace off the backhand. That's an even bigger advantage for Sinner. That's a 12 mile per hour speed advantage for Sinner off the ground. And still, De Minaur in the first set was winning baseline rallies, was winning the extended exchanges. That is impressive, as I said. But as soon as De Minaur in the second set tried to get aggressive, and I don't know if this was a tactical decision, I just lost the first set, let me change something up, or if it was fatigue. I'm tired of grinding. I'm tired of trying to execute this very, very taxing mentally and physically game plan. I don't know which one it was, but as soon as Demon started, tried to up the ante and get aggressive off the ground, he started missing. He started making errors. And that eliminated his only advantage. So that wasn't great for De Minaur. He did not. I cannot put together a very good highlight reel of quality attacking ground strokes from De Minaur. Wasn't great. Now, do note that the way I think De Minaur offensively usually remedies his lack of power is by getting to net. That is usually how he produces offense in spite of his ground strokes not being very fast. It's hard to do that against a player like Sinner. Sinner's power and his aggression, it just doesn't let De Minaur, doesn't afford De Minaur the same kind of opportunities to get to net that like a Medvedev would. Because Demon is pushed back by the power, and Sinner is not giving him as much not giving him as much neutrality, and therefore De Minaur is spending much more, a much larger percentage defending. So he's struggling to get forward, basically. Versus against Medvedev, he kind of could live at the net, and that's how he could produce his offense. And that gave him a path to winning points on his own terms. Against Sinner in this match, there were no paths to winning points on his own terms. Couple of good backhands down the line. Couple of them. That was it. I do think that Sinner also did find an improvement with his forehand. I don't know if I found the best screenshot here to show you guys on YouTube, but Sinner started to open up his own angles a little bit better. De Minaur did not want to introduce any angle unless he had a real opportunity to attack, and then he would hit close to the sidelines. But he really wanted that down-the-middle ball striking to extend those rallies, and it was effective. But what Sinner started to do was instead of, especially on his forehand, instead of allowing De Minaur to play those kind of linear, no-angle rallies, Jannik started rolling his forehand a little bit better and playing, I think, closer to the sideline on his cross-court forehand. And that put De Minaur in a much tougher spot. Because when Demon is stretched out in his forehand corner, and remember, he doesn't want to go cross-court into Sinner's forehand. He wants to go middle or down the line. But when you're stretched out towards the doubles alley, you're trying to buy yourself some time to get back into the court. And in order to buy yourself time to get back into the court, you usually want to go cross-court. Cross-court gives you that time. The ball is in flight for a longer period of time. And you get those milliseconds that you need to recover your court position. But look at Demon here. Doesn't want to go cross court, but he kind of goes cross middle. And if he went down the line, he would have been in even bigger trouble here because he's not able to recover, and it would open up the cross court. So he challenges Sinner's forehand to make the redirection, but the recovery is just not even close because de Minaur went hard, kind of, not that hard, but he went through the middle here. And Sinner makes the redirect and forces the error. Again, I mean, it wasn't really the best example, but I think the main point is that Sinner started to introduce some angle on his cross-court forehand, put de Minaur in a really tough position, and he I think, recognized, okay, we need to open up the court a little bit and get de Minaur off the center line because he's so quick, he's such a good defender that as long as these rallies are being played through the middle, there's really no way for me to beat him with my power. I'm going to have to take some pace off myself, roll it cross a little bit, and now we can make de Minaur uncomfortable, move him off the center line, and find the open court where I can use my power to hit into. So that is all I got on this match. Another first-time Masters 1000 champion on the tour. I know that I talked about it in the Cincinnati preview a little bit, and I just want to end with a quick follow-up on that thread because Mark Pecci on the Tennis Channel broadcast gave a great stat, and it was also in the notes. 10 Masters 1000 champions, first time since 2021. 10 first-time Masters 1000 champions. I can read them off for you. Norrie, Tsitsipas, Hurkacz, Rune, Coric, Carreño Busta, Alcaraz, Fritz, Andrei Rublev, and now Jannik Sinner. So that's 10 in a 3-year period, and we still have Paris and Shanghai. 10 in 3 years. In the 10-year period from 2011 to 2020, 13 first-time Masters 1000 champion. So think about how our number in this decade is already approaching that number for the previous decade. I mean, the 2020s are going to blow right by the 2010s when it comes to first-time Masters 1000 champions because nobody is actually hoarding these big titles anymore, like the big three were. That's been interesting to see. But none more deserving than Jannik Sinner. Congratulations to him on his first Masters 1000 title. He's champion in Toronto, and now we are on to Cincinnati. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.